Nope.
They said they weren't going to be quiet, but they probably realized we're not doing the interview yet, so I'll go over there and shoot. Yeah. Slant. Yeah. She'll have to stand back here. I'm sure she'll be fine standing like that. You know when she's walking over here? Heading over. Sweet. I really hope they hold off that noise.
I felt bad during I'm glad he was found.
So they're getting ready to head over right now. I just got the text saying they're heading over. Sorry, it's a little bit delayed. All right, they're coming up now. Yes, sir.
Try not to. Sorry, folks. I'm just trying to not mess up recordings here. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chief Petty Officer Luke Clayton, spelled Lukeclayton. I'm the Deputy Public Information Officer for the Coast Guard response for the Western Maui wildfires. Thank you for being here today. In a few moments, the Coast Guard Incident Commander for the wildfires will be here to speak with you. Her name is Captain Asia Kirksey, spelled Ajayirksey, and she's the commander of Coast Guard Sector Honolulu. She's going to make a brief statement concerning the Coast Guard operations with search and rescue, and then we'll go into Q&A afterwards. Some ground rules for the press conference. For the duration of the press conference, I ask that you silence your cell phones. If you need to take a call, please leave the area as to not interrupt the others in attendance. We'll start with a brief statement, and then Captain Kirksey will have about 15 to 20 minutes to answer questions. When you are called upon, please ask one question, let her answer, and then one follow-up question, and then we'd like to get to everybody, and then if there's time afterwards, we can take additional questions. When you're called on, please state your name and your media affiliation. It'll help us ensure that we can get back to you and answer any unanswered questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, can I introduce Captain Asia Kirksey, the incident commander for the wildfires?
Thank you. Aloha, mahalo for being here this afternoon. As stated, I am Captain Asia Kirksey, the sector commander here at Sector Honolulu. Before I begin, I would like to express my and our deepest sympathy to those affected by the Western Maui wildfires. The loss and devastation of this incident has captured the hearts of those across the island community and also the mainland. The Coast Guard continues to support the people of Maui and the state of Hawaii during this challenging situation. At 5:45 p.m. Tuesday, Coast Guard Sector Honolulu watchstanders received reports regarding multiple persons in the water needing rescue after fleeing from fire and smoke that had overtaken Lahaina, Maui. Coast Guard Sector Honolulu Command Center issued an urgent marine information broadcast to all mariners indicating what we thought would be a mass rescue, which resulted in response by 8 Good Samaritan vessels. The Command Center also diverted the Coast Guard cutter Joseph Gerzak, launched an Air Station Barbers Point MH-65 Dolphin helicopter aircrew, and a 45-foot response boat medium crew from Station Maui and Maui Harbor. 2 U.S. Navy MH-60 air crews from Helicopter Maritime Strike Squadron 37 were also deployed. Tuesday evening, the 45-foot response boat medium crew arrived on scene and rescued 17 survivors from the waters in the vicinity of Lahaina Harbor, with all survivors reported to be in stable condition. The Coast Guard has continued to conduct searching around the area of Lahaina Harbor and out also into the Maui Triangle and waters beyond that area in case of any persons in need of assistance but not yet recovered. As of yesterday, search and rescue efforts extended over 15 search hours covering more than 450 square nautical miles, which doesn't include the near continuous presence of our Coast Guard cutters that were deployed. Our consolidated efforts in response to the Western Maui wildfires incident have included approximately 300 Coast Guard personnel. Our response to this incident has now expanded beyond our search and rescue mission to additional public, maritime, and environmental safety responsibilities. The Coast Guard resources involved in the response to date include Coast Guard cutters Kimball, Juniper, and the Joseph Gerzak, our National Strike Team, our Incident Management Assistance Team, Maritime Safety and Security Team Honolulu, and Dive Locker Pacific, 2 MSST Honolulu small boat crews, a remotely operated vehicle, Coast Guard divers, and members of Station Honolulu here on Oahu, along with members of Sector Honolulu on Oahu, were transported via Air Station Barbers Point C-130 to supplement Station Maui and the Coast Guard cutter Joseph Gerzak. Air Station Barbers Point MH-65 helicopter crews conducted searches, and our Air Station Barbers Point C-130 provided assessment overflights along with crew and equipment transfers in Maui. A safety zone was also established 3 nautical miles north and 3 nautical miles south of Lahaina, and extending 1 nautical mile offshore to protect mariners and responders. And Coast Guard divers conducted side-scan sonar operations. The Coast Guard has conducted operations around the clock, deploying units to search for survivors and to assist our partner agencies in responding to rescuing those in distress. We've deployed highly skilled teams and specialized equipment to closely monitor any potential impacts from the Western Maui wildfire on the maritime environment, including conducting aerial and maritime assessments of the extent of the impact on coastal waters, looking for any signs of pollution and other potential hazards. Our primary objective since the beginning of this response is to ensure the safety and well-being of our first responders and the affected individuals we've rescued while coordinating response efforts with our partners. The Coast Guard has played a crucial role in rescuing Lahaina residents who sought refuge in the ocean, escaping the blazes and the smoke. However, this is only possible through incredible collaboration with our partners, our first responder agencies, our federal, state, local partners, and we're just really deeply appreciative of those partnerships. Looking ahead, we're joined by a dedicated team of responders and partners, all of whom are putting forth incredible effort to provide assistance to the Lahaina community. The Coast Guard remains committed to working closely with our partners to navigate the challenges that we know are posed by this devastating incident. And regarding safety, we urge residents and visitors to remain vigilant, stay informed through official channels, and adhere to evacuation orders and safety guidelines issued by local authorities. We recognize the uncertainty that many are still experiencing. Rest assured that we will continue to communicate updates transparently as the situation evolves. Every day, Coast Guard women and men, our trusted sentinels, volunteer to put their lives on the line to save others. A surface swimmer deployed into the water to save 5 people, including 2 children, from the water. A Coast Guard member who was on leave from the mainland to Maui volunteered to support our boat crews, and our members have deployed here from across the country, and they will continue to do so to respond to this incident. Our highly skilled members remain steadfast in our response efforts to help the Lahaina Harbour and Lahaina community and all of Maui. The Coast Guard and our maritime partners routinely work together, we train together, and we exercise together to exercise our capabilities to ensure that we are prepared for any disaster. And we'll continue to do that. Thank you so much. Mahalo for being here. I will now take questions with the understanding that there are still many unknowns as this incident recently occurred and is still evolving.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Kelleher.
Jennifer.
If you could speak up a little louder, that would be really helpful, please. When was the Coast Guard notified of the wildfires by Maui County state officials, and what was their request for assistance?
The first notification associated with the Lahaina Harbor residents who were evacuating into the water was on Tuesday evening at 5:45.
And there weren't notifications about fires for the residents who needed help in the water.
The only notifications we received had to do with search and rescue in our command center. Thank you.
Do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, can you talk about what time you were active? You said 5:45.
5:45
And-
Tuesday evening.
Elaborate on the reports. Was there like SOS from the people in the water? What were the reports that you received that prompted you?
The initial report that we received from first responders in Lahaina was that people were evacuating into the water. The initial information we received was potentially up to 100 people had entered the water and would be in need of assistance.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Tim Morango from the New York Times. Could you tell us a little bit more about the sea rescues in any detail, like how far out in the water were they, how deep was it, how long had they been in the water?
Our crews received that report at 5:45, and then they responded throughout the evening. In the course of responding, they encountered victims that were in the water and also on the seawall, and some of them they assisted simply in transport to our first responder partners that were there in Lahaina, who were able to evacuate them.
So how long were the people that were in the water? How long did they
I can get back to you on specifics for individual people.
Go ahead.
Mark without the Honolulu advertiser. You said 17 people were rescued from the water the first night.
Over the course of the first evening and into the early hours of the next morning, it was a total of 17.
Is there an updated number? How many rescues?
No additional rescues by the Coast Guard since early Wednesday morning.
And I guess is there any reason there?
So the reason that we continued searching was in case we received additional reports of confirmed victims entering the water and in need of assistance, but there have been no confirmed missing persons that we believe are in the water. There were reports of missing loved ones, and those were resolved as not in the water.
Manolo Morales with Kate. I just want to clarify. So you said you had reports of about 100 people, but you rescued 17, meaning others were on the road?
So I appreciate you clarifying. So the Coast Guard rescued 17. Others were assisted by other agencies. And the initial number of 100 was an estimate.
So there were quite a bit more who were rescued by others
I believe so.
from the water.
From the water, or that they assisted themselves out of the water for evacuation.
There were close to 100 then, probably.
I don't actually know the number, and we've been trying to get clarity on that really hectic scene that evening.
Do you have a question?
Oh, yeah. Can you describe what the rescue was like, what the conditions were out there
I can.
for the Coast Guard?
So I think you're familiar with the incredible winds that were impacting Lahaina that night, reports of up to 60 miles per hour. So our crews did encounter those winds and some rough seas as a result of that. And there was smoke and fire near the water, but they were fortunate to have been there during the rescues at a time when the smoke lifted for them to be able to see the people who needed to be rescued. But it was a very challenging situation for our small boat crews from Station Maui. The helicopters that were launched were actually not able to approach closely enough during the worst of the fire to see through the smoke.
We're hearing that there were bodies floating in the water. Did the Coast Guard see any of that?
On the first evening, there were some difficult to validate reports that our members might have seen something. But what I can say with certainty is that yesterday a Coast Guard helicopter did observe a victim that Station Maui did recover, and that victim was unresponsive.
That person was in the water.
That person was in the water.
That's the only report.
By the Coast Guard.
You have one.
You had another question?
Yeah, sorry, Jennifer, again, from the Assistant Attorney. If you could just, in as much detail as possible, kind of describe how difficult this was. It's getting late, going into the morning, there's fire, it's an unusual kind of rescue, you have children, you have the ages of these children. What were they doing? Are they just floating around in the water? Are they, what is the...
I've had some of these same questions. I've asked our Station Maui crew. It's a crew of 20, just over 20 individuals there. I've asked to try to have them give me some of those details. They've also been responding 24/7 ever since this started. And so we have gotten a few details secondhand, but what I understand is that our crews responded really heroically, and that I know that they're very resilient, but I haven't asked them to relive all of the detail, just trying to get consistent numbers and to be able to attribute some of the assistance also that we provided to our partner agencies.
I'm sorry, again, when you say reports, like what does that mean? Like what was the communication that you guys got?
We have a command center here at Sector Honolulu that functions very much like a 911 call center, and it's where all of our civilians and also partner agencies can relay requests for assistance. And so if you call 911 and you need to speak with the Coast Guard, it comes here ultimately. But these initial reports came directly from partner agencies on Maui.
I know you mentioned among the 17 survivors were 2 children, but can you give us a full breakdown of how many adults and children you guys did rescue that day?
I cannot. I'm sorry. We'll continue to try to work on that. I'm just grateful that we were able to assist that many people.
Can you offer any details of all of the damage to the vessels?
So as we transition our response from search and rescue to environmental response, the very first stage is to assess the status of the harbor. The harbor is currently closed, and we're in the stages now of finding out just how many vessels are on the, we know approximately how many on the surface. We need to determine how many are subsurface.
We have time for one more question. I believe you had another question. Do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, can. Wanted to go back to the report of 100 possible people received. Was that based on an observation, or is that some kind of standardized number, depending on the other end? Just kind of curious about maybe how many in the water at some point related to Coast Guard rescue vessels.
What I know about that number is that was an estimate, and it was also reported as approximately. I believe it was given to us as a sense of scale so that we'd be prepared for a mass rescue operation.
How reliable would you say those are, or even as far as the water? I just want to make sure.
So I didn't quite hear the end of that question.
So you said that was based, that the 100 was based on someone's observation.
All right.
Sorry.
That concludes Captain's portion. I'm going to stick around and try to answer any other questions. And if you guys have follow-up information, we're also going to be putting out a fact sheet, kind of like a list of assets being used and kind of the main things that we're pinging on currently. So we'll get all your guys' emails and then email that to you directly after this. Okay. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Does anybody have any follow-up questions? Sure. Yeah. So the Coast Guard station in Maui, they do have trained surface swimmers, so they'll actually tether someone to get into the water to swim out to folks, and they'll bring those folks back in and bring them on board the